Good evening. This is Father Peter Mark. I wanted to do something a little bit different than the previous videos that I've been posting, and rather than taking an academic approach, I wanted to spend some time in reflection. Since today is Thanksgiving, I've been meditating a lot on the nature of Thanksgiving and specifically the role that Thanksgiving ought to play in our lives. There's so much that has been going through my heart and my mind today. And the fact is we live in a nation that is becoming increasingly ungrateful. We live in a culture of consumerism where our advertisements create within us a sense of lack, and then they provide their specific service or product which fills that lack or that void in our life. And if only we would just purchase it, we would finally be happy. Another cultural phenomena which has been at the center of my heart for over a decade now is the fact that immediately after a day of Thanksgiving, we have Black Friday. We go from a day wherein we are to be expressing gratitude to God for what we have, for what He's given us, to a day wherein we are utterly fixated on what stuff we can buy. This is something that should be on our hearts as we go about our daily life, but most of the time it's not. This is evidenced by just how we act and react to anything from uncomfortable situations to pain and suffering. The degrees to which our society has plummeted itself towards addiction, towards coping mechanisms, and those addictions and coping mechanisms that we use to deal with the discomfort and pain and suffering in our life. And without gratitude shaping those situations in our life, we end up bitter, angry, and frustrated. And in that bitterness and anger and resentment, we lose ourselves. We begin to chisel away at our own hearts and souls as we harbor grudges. And that grudge, whether it's to family, friend, or neighbor, ends up being a grudge towards God. In our day and age, we have to recapture a true and meaningful and substantive grasp of gratitude. St. Paul, throughout his epistles, focuses on joy in the midst of trial and tribulation. And he says that God works together all things for good for those who love him. That good is our salvation. So trial and tribulation function as a means of our salvation. Pain and suffering shape and form our very souls. And we have the ability to react in bitterness, anger, and resentment towards God, or we have the ability to respond in gratitude. And if we do not have within ourselves a truly meaningful and substantive loci for what we are grateful for, everything else can be taken away. So, what do I mean by that? We use cars, we use houses, we use any kind of consumer product to bring structure and identity and lifestyle to us. And then when that is snatched away, we lose ourselves. We begin to lose a sense of our identity. We end up running amiss in our lives. This is why, for most of the biblical writers, this idea of thanksgiving flows out of a natural course of the exercise of faith, hope, and love. Now, much of what I'm saying to anyone who is experiencing severe pain and suffering, this will sound hollow. At the same time, even in the midst of pain and suffering, even in the midst of the hollowness of what I'm saying, within our very heart, we sense something is true. Even though we may not like it, it's there. And many of us may feel that some way, somehow, if only we can gr grasp our hands and our minds and our hearts around that part that is true, then maybe we'll just get through another day. It is through the turmoil of life that we are to express thanksgiving. It's easy to be thankful when things are going easy. It's very easy to be thankful for eh, when we when for when things are going well and things are going our way. But how much more meaningful is the sense of gratitude when things aren't going our way? These are the difficult aspects of our lives that we have to navigate through. And we have to have times specifically dedicated in our lives to where we are focused on gratitude. Otherwise, the days go by, the months go by, and the years go by, and we forget God. We forget our gratitude. We continue to go about our busy daily lives, consuming and being busy and occupying our very hearts and minds with everything that will not last. And so it is in this particular vein that I am focusing this meditation so strongly on the reality of just how important gratitude is, because gratitude ends up becoming I should say the erosion of gratitude becomes the source of everything that plagues our lives, whether it's addiction to pornography, whether it's um, spending meaningless and endless hours on entertainment or video games or uh, any other meaningless pursuits. It is the erosion of gratitude that causes us to latch on to these meaningless things because we want to experience either one of two things. We either want an experience of pleasure or we want to numb ourselves. The heart that is in tune with God, the soul that is in communion with God and truly grateful, will have a very difficult time needing to be satiated with coping mechanisms. That is the bitter truth that we must hear and know. Because most of us, in some way, experience a disposition to try to, a disposition towards coping mechanisms. When in reality, we should be working our souls towards faith, hope, and love. Faith, hope, and love with God and with our neighbor. I hope this is meaningful and substantive enough to be able to lift you up, or if anything, cause you to at least reflect on maybe ways in which you've allowed things in your life to take over that shouldn't be there. Things that have mastered your life rather than you mastering them. And if everything is going wrong in your life, may you at least be able to be thankful for the salvation and the fruit that it's producing in your life. And may we this weekend reorient ourselves rather than on the things that we can buy, but rather from today till Sunday, prepare our hearts and our minds for worship, where we are to give ourselves as a sacrifice and thanksgiving back to God. How much more meaningful would our worship be if we fixated our hearts on gratitude throughout the week? How much more meaningful would our family gatherings be if we were grateful? How much more meaningful would the food that we taste be if we were grateful? How much would our loneliness and isolation be healed if we were grateful? Gratitude ends up being a true balm of healing to our very souls. May you have a blessed evening. May this weekend bear fruit in your life. And may those areas of your life which are broken be healed. And as we begin to wrap up this year, may you dedicate your heart and soul and intention to gratitude. May you be blessed this evening. May you sleep well. And may God give you peace in your life.